Right. Third time trying to record this goddamn video. Right. Welcome back to Scruffy Tales. I'm having some troubles here recording, but third time's a charm, I hope. If you hear something in the background, I apologize again. And they're doing some job outdoors here, so you might hear some of that. But yeah, let's move on. Right, if you are watching YouTube content detailing the Ukraine war, I just want to point out that YouTubers don't know jack about what's going on in case. So what they're reporting on is likely 24, 48 hours old. They might see something on Twitter and what have you. All in all, what they provide you are speculations, guesses, and like you can see, outright bullshit, right? Which of course includes my content. But what I try to do is, if I look at the front line and a map, I try to, what is on that map? Why are they fighting in that area? There might be a bridge nearby, maybe a railroad hub or something like that. And you go, yeah, that's important. So that's probably why they're attacking in that area. They want the bridge, they want the railroad or something like that. And also if I zoom in really close on these points of contact, where can they find cover? Well, they can't cross that field. They have to use the woods. They have to move into these buildings and that factory and so on. So that's just me looking at map, speculating on where troops might be moving. Has nothing to do with what actually will happen on the ground. So just keep that in mind. And also with the maps detailing the front line of the war, each map shows something different. Basically, they're not showing you the same they're not showing you the same advances and the same movement of troops and what have you. So, and I'll show you what I mean in a little while here. So just bear that in mind. Looking at a map online doesn't give you the full picture, right? So moving on to the maps here, and I'll show you. So we have ISW, Deep State, and Rybar, the classic sources for maps on the Ukraine conflict war. We'll see here, ISW map. You can see here that Ukraine has taken quite a lot of territory. But if we move on to compare it to Deep State, you have Velika Novosilka marked on both maps. This is from 16th of June, Friday. This is when I was hoping to have recorded this video, but the weekend, family stuff happens. I didn't get a chance to record this until now, so most of the video was planned to be recorded and uploaded on Friday, 16th. So it might be a bit outdated, but I'll try and manage. Yeah, we look at Novosilka, and you can see Deep State map on the right only has Ukraine pushing into Makarivka, while ISW map shows that Ukraine has pushed down all the way down into the fields northeast of Staromlenivka. And zooming in a bit more, you have Urushaina on the Deep State map. Ukraine is in control of Makarivka to the north. Take a look on the ISW map. Well, Ukraine, according to that map, is almost about to enter Urushaina from the east across these large farm fields, right? So you can tell that, you have to look at several maps to get an idea of what is going on, because just looking at one map might give you, well, the wrong idea of what is going on. So if we apply the ISW map to the Deep State map, it should look something like this. This is a more updated map from Deep State, as you can tell, as according to this one, Ukraine has moved out into the fields east of Makarivka. So yeah, that is what the deep state map should look like if it was showing the same thing we can see on the ISW map. Interestingly, though, if we look at RIBAR maps, the RIBAR map is of course updated by pro-Russians. You can see here, this is from the 13th of June, and this map aligns pretty well with the ISW map that I used on the 16th. So should give us a hint that maybe Deep State is falling a bit behind in the reporting, maybe, or maybe it's ISW and RIBAR that have overestimated Ukrainian advances. Who knows? But let's assume that ISW and RIBAR are correct. And what does that mean for Ukrainian chances of moving on? Well, let's see if we can get here we go. So if Ukraine has Makarivka, and according to ISW and RIBAR, they also have taken the farmland here in the center, what does that mean? Well, it means basically that, in my previous video, I said that Ukraine more or less only had the option of attacking from the north, from Makarivka and heading south, right? Well, if they have taken these fields and they are not as mined as I assumed they would be, well, then they could possibly attack Urshina from the flank or maybe move up behind. They could maybe even go down here to Savitne Bajanya and move in behind these forward Russian positions. They could outflank and make a move on Novodonetsk and maybe even try and reach Kremenchuk. What sorry, excuse me. What is really interesting, though, if they've taken this ground, I'm so sorry, my headset shut down again. What's going on? This is not my day of recording. Sorry. Anyway, that's what you get if you do things unscripted, right? You just do it on the fly. If they're down here and they haven't run into serious minefields, how far south can they go? Can they get down here to the stream, the road? Because down here is where the Russian main defensive line begins in earnest. This is where they've built all the trenches and stuff. How far south can they move without hitting minefields? Yeah, that's an interesting question. And also here was given a tip by a viewer, Typunkt or T-Punkt, I don't know, Typunkt, to add some topography maps. So that's what I decided to do. So here we have Makarivka. Here is the ISW map, what they suggest. So here we can clearly see that it's a bit of a high ground. Not much, but Ukraine has in that case moved into some high ground, which allows them to, should allow them to get some ability to fire down upon Russian positions down here in the valley where the river and all the towns are located. So yeah, a bit interesting. They don't seem to have moved over here yet, which would really give them the high ground. But yeah, as you can tell, this is a hill that Ukraine has slowly begun to secure, which should allow them to give them a good flanking opportunity on these towns in the valley. So what do I think Ukraine's initial goals are at this section of the front line? Well, here we have the red line is the main Russian defensive line with all the trenches and bunkers and what have you. What I think Ukraine is after before beginning the push into this area here is they want the roads I marked the roads here with black. If they secure these roads, that means they can move in reinforcements, or move in supplies, and more easily move damaged vehicles out of the area and move wounded back the line to field hospitals. And the more roads they have, the easier it will be to bring all of these supplies and reinforcements in, because then Russia can't just aim all artillery at one location. So I think Ukraine wants initially to secure the roads here, maybe here in Novodonetsk, and they've already begun to push down here towards Pryotne. So I think they're gonna try and move down here as well. Although Remivka, remember this section of road, and you'll see it later on when we take a look at the fortifications map. So they want these roads in order to prepare the final push to taking this area here. Klyochove, Heorivka, Yalinske, Novopetrivka. Because if they take these towns here and this stretch of road, then they've cracked open the Russian front, and they can utilize this main road here, as you can see the gray line, the main road. They can utilize that to start moving south towards the Sea of Azov, and more or less unopposed. If they get this stretch of road, they can move south unopposed. So they need all these roads to prepare for the final push to crack the Russians open here. And to do that, they need to attack the Russian main line, which we will now move on to take a look at. Right, remember that road south of Pryotne? Here we go. Defended. Russia has built fortifications because they realize that Ukraine most likely will move down that road. So say in a week or two or a couple of weeks, Ukraine has pushed Russia back, and this is the new front line. Then Ukraine has a couple of options. Like I said, I think they want this road because it's so vital. Either they move down here, or they move down here, or they attack head on, or they do all at once. They attack here and attack head on. I think their first point of contact with the Russian main defensive line in this region will be here at Klyochove. So here we have Klyochove, Heorivka, body of water, Russian fortifications, and the main line here around Heorivka and Novopetrivka. And topography map, Klyochove, Heorivka, those forward trench lines, body of water. And as you can tell, we have a small rise here, bit of a bigger hill here. But what you can see here is also, yes, you have tree lines all over the place here, but from this line here, it's relatively flat, and Russia will be shooting, well, straight at or down at incoming Ukrainians. Which means, if they're coming in here, Ukraine will have high ground on either flank, and Russia will hold a slight advantage of high ground over here. So this is a satellite image, right? Russian defensive line, trench lines, bunkers. Klyochove, Heorivka, body of water, the fish head, dragon head. And as you can tell, it's wide open fields that Russia is defending, and they are more or less slightly looking down from their positions at this tree line. And over here it is a slight increase towards a hill, and also wide open farmland. It will be difficult for Ukraine, as I always point out, to move here without being spotted. And as soon as they're spotted, Russia knows where to send in artillery. They know where to send in their gunships, their attack helicopters with missiles, and so forth. So it funnels Ukraine into this area here. I think that is the Russian strategy here, to get Ukraine into this area here where Russia can set up defenses in the trees and what have you, and in the town of Kluchove. And say that Ukraine has the town of Staromlivnivka, right? They've secured it a couple of weeks from now, and they want to move on. Again, wide open fields. They can't sneak around. The drones will spot them. So how do they advance? Well, along the river, possibly, following the river to find cover. They can move down here in this thick tree line here to try and advance. Maybe through here. However, I thought this looks interesting. So I zoomed in. And you have trees up here, and you have bushes, maybe, down here. This doesn't look like a forest, does it? This is, well, maybe vegetation that you could hide in, but it's not really cover. So if Russia opens fire with machine guns, you're dead if you're trying to hide in here. So now this patch is not something Ukraine will advance through, I think. And that patch ends up here. So maybe then they will come down through the river here. Make use of cover, what cover they can find, to try and reach the town and breach and secure it. Maybe, I don't know. Again, look at these open fields all around here. Oh, it's so difficult to make any good choices on how to advance in this terrain. That means they have to come all the way through here. We use the river here. It shut down again. How annoying. Anyway, so coming down here, maybe, do you think they will use vehicles around here? Maybe reach this tree line? Where have Russia placed mines? We're close to the main defensive lines, so yeah, I don't know. Mines over here, I believe. Ukraine has one more option, though, not besides the river and the open fields, and that is the tree line here and this farm, which we will zoom in on. So here is the farm, or if it's a farm, I don't know. Looks like a farm. And if we take a look at the residential buildings here, the houses, this forest here, it's pretty big compared to the houses, right? It's wide. So you can actually get a lot of troops moving through here with good cover and be able to hide from drones. You might even get a few vehicles in here if you're careful enough. And then that way you can move all the way down here. Probably gonna be facing anti-personnel mines and Russian defensive positions, obviously. But fighting their way through here, then they can try and cross the road and get into this, whatever this is, factory complex, farm, maybe another farm, right? So here is where they have lots of good cover, and they can also hide from surveillance from drones. And here they can bound over the road and start fighting in the farm. You have the farm down here, and again there's some cover here with the trees, some buildings, so you can actually make relatively good ground here. Now you have the option to either attack the town or push on towards the trees. Now, we must, I suspect that Russia will be all over the tree line here, same here, the dam and the tree line here, right? So make an attack here. Again, open fields, Russia will probably in defensive positions. Yeah, Artillery will hit the area here. As soon as Ukraine gets close, they're going to call in artillery on the farm, on the town, and whatever. Yeah. Ukraine might get a couple of vehicles down here, start firing at the tree line, get into the woods, push on, and try and get out on the flanks here of the dam. And if they get this far, now this field here is covered by the main Russian defensive line, right? That French line. So if they start moving down here, they're gonna be under fire, lots of fire. And fighting here will probably take some time. Russia's probably multiple defensive lines in here that Ukraine will have to push in and clear out. But as soon as they've cleared these woods, there's not much cover, right? Then they have to walk over here, maybe get up here and use this tree line here, try and move down here. But I mean, if Russia has machine guns over here, they can just fire straight across the dam into the woods. And you have to really appreciate the difficulty Ukraine has in making any gains. I mean, we remember Vuhledar, right? Where Russia was attacking through basically this type of terrain, and Ukraine was just eating them up. They just sent in artillery, sent in missiles and everything, and at Vuhledar, Russia lost dozens and dozens of vehicles trying to attack through this type of terrain. And we can see why. Open fields and narrow lanes where there's some form of protection and cover. Ukraine has a tough fight ahead, definitely, if they get this far. And as you can tell, well, maybe they can fight their way all the way down here and here. Maybe they can move over here, and maybe they can push down here. Well, if they get down here, then there's then a good chance of flanking the trench works that Russia has prepared here. But I mean, Russia will most likely have this. This is a vital point for these defensive works. So if Ukraine can get down here, it's going to be one hell of a fight, most likely. Can I advance here? I don't know. They're going to get shot at from the Russian positions. Maybe they will be able to set up fire positions and return fire. If they get down here, then maybe they are brave enough to roll in a vehicle or two that can set up and start firing down on the Russian lines. But yeah, I think artillery they have to rely on artillery. They can't just clear this out using infantry alone, right? They have to call in artillery to make sure Russia leaves these areas before they move in, because they can't outflank anything. It's nightmare. A bit close look here. You can see the trees, the forests, and the open ground. A couple of trees and bushes only. And Russia, I mean, take a look at it. If Russia is hiding over here, they're just going to be shooting straight over across. If they run from this area, the Russians over here will just dump ammo into this tree line. My God. But let's assume Ukraine gets this far, which I hope they do. They have to. Maybe they have this tree line here, and maybe they manage to secure the dam. How do they get to Makarivka? Well, if you look here, you can see it might be a cover in the dam if they can get around it. But still, open ground. So they might set up to shoot at the Russian positions from this line here. But I don't think they will cross because it's open ground, right? Maybe move along the river to try and outflank the town. I don't know, maybe. I think the best bet is pushing on into the woods here and down here and try and get into this factory or farm or whatever it is. And this is where they will breach Makarivka. They will have to go through the forests, hard fighting, and then get into the farm slash factory. Right? And from here, again, open fields all around. Try and get in here. So once they've secured this, and hopefully this area won't get hit by artillery shells. Jesus Christ. And try and push on, get into the buildings here and start clearing out Makarivka. Right? But here's the thing. That's this far. Then they've taken Klyochove, they've taken the dam, Makarivka, and they've taken this line, the defensive line. Russian defenses just keeps on going down here. Yalinsky and Novopetrivka are all fortified locations. Urban fighting, fortified urban settings. It's, yeah, and wide open farmland on all sides, making it impossible to maneuver without being spotted. Incredible. There is one interesting thing I found though, and it's the ditch on the flank. Returning to this map, this here. What is this? Well, we're gonna zoom in. Take a look. What the hell is it? This giant ditch looks like a dried out river, and you can tell here that water flows from the this hill. This is a large hill. Water flows down here into this ditch river. Same thing here. So if Ukraine can maybe reach this, they could potentially walk troops in. I mean, Russia obviously knows this. It's going to be a hard fight along this ditch, but they could use this to approach the Russian lines. Maybe even utilize this tree line here. Shut down again. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, they can walk through this river or stream, ditch, and possibly outflank the Russians that way. I don't know. It's just, I just wondered what the hell is that on the map, zoomed in and found this thing. So yeah, that's a possibility. That Ukraine might outflank the Russians up here, get into the ditch, the stream, river, whatever you want to call it, and then get in on Yalinsky that way. Push on Makarivka and push on Yalinsky. Who knows? So that is basically the head-on assault. But what about if Ukraine tries to attack at an angle? Novopetrivka, Krasnopoliana, Russian defensive line. As you can tell, it's difficult. And here you have the body of water, the dam. So we just went over the what awaits Ukraine if they do a head-on assault from Klyochove down to Makarivka, and the problems of hitting the line head-on along the road. So why not at an angle, right? Here or possibly here, straight at Krasnopoliana, or maybe even here. In a previous video, I was wondering is this really a good choice? Because it feels like this is a weak point in the Russian line. But if it's a weak point, I assumed they would, excuse me, just fill this area here with mines. But now I'm not so sure. Maybe this is a viable choice. Who knows? Looking at the topography map, we have Makarivka, Krasnopoliana, main defensive lines. And here you have a large hill that Russia has occupied with their trench lines and bunkers, meaning they can fire over the ditch I was talking about at Ukrainian troops on the other side, right? This is a problem for Ukraine. If they are trying to move down here, Russia will see them and can be able to shoot with vehicles north at the Ukrainian positions, making this area difficult to attack from. Move down here. We also have the hill begins down here, but it's a slight upward slope. But, you know, it's not impossible. I think why this area here where I'm at right now is interesting, because behind here, Russia has nothing. There's nothing here. So yeah, I think this line of attack, because there's nothing behind the Russian lines down here, or maybe here, even though this is a hill, because then you can get to Krasnopoliana and possibly secure Krasnopoliana, because it's vital to make sure you unlock this road. You can also obviously crack through here, and since, like I said, it's wide open here, move around and attack Krasnopoliana from this way, and even the Russian lines here. Why I don't think they will attack this way is because there's a river. Here is a river, here is Russian defenses, and it's a slight slope upwards. So Russians here will be able to shoot at Ukrainians trying to cross a river. So I don't think they will move down here and attack this way. They will probably attack through here, Krasnopoliana, or attack through here to exploit the fact this is wide open territory. Or they might actually do a combination of it all, plus attacking from the north at Makarivka and then Novopetrivka. Right, now take a look at this. There's nothing here. There is absolutely nothing here. The same thing with Krasnopoliana, why I think this is important. If you take this, there's nothing behind it. Then they're through. Russia has nothing. They have these pockets of defenses, but it's not enough to hold if Ukraine breaks through. Right, so this is what I mean, right? They could potentially, say they break through here, and then try and reach Krasnopoliana like this. What's going to stop them? This is a hill, so they get the high ground, and they can move up on the high ground, they can start shooting down on Russian positions all around them, and then make a push for Krasnopoliana. They can start attacking Novopetrivka, and then they get this vital road that they need. Yeah, I think this is what they might be going for, actually. Yeah, Krasnopoliana down here, the body of water, the dam up here. So get through here. You have all this giant hill that's not defended at all by Russia, and from here you can, as you can tell, you can just gain the high ground here and attack the Russian positions from behind, basically, and just roll in on Krasnopoliana unopposed. Incredible. So, moving on to what I think is really interesting, the possibility for a thunder run. So say that Ukraine reaches Krasnopoliana this way or that way, or however they manage to unlock this road here, and they take Krasnopoliana. After that, Russia has at Sakativka, there's two Sakativka, but at Sakativka they have defenses in place. This is a fortified town, but around it, nothing. So have they troops in Vilna? Okay, sure. Why not just drive across here and down south? They have troops in Antonivka or Azov, yeah, well, there's huge fields here. Behind the Russian front, you won't see as many mines. You just won't. It leaves Russia wide open. And Ukraine can just, oh, we have an obstacle, let's move around it. And why is this interesting? Well, take a look at this. You breach here, this is the area that I've been talking about. And then you have this next line of defense here that Ukraine can basically just bypass without problems. And then they can just move as far south as possible. And this road takes them all the way down to the sea, which is why this road is so goddamn important. So the Thunder Run is basically breach and then move as far as possible without losing control. And if you do that, then you have a staging point for further attacks into Russian occupied territory. And if you take a look here at Sakativka, it's only, well, say 60 kilometers from Sakativka to the sea. That's not far. I mean, if you're engaging in combat every day, then yes, then it's far. But if you're just going to take your car for a drive, that's not far at all. So if they get through the line eventually and can breach and start driving like hell, doing this Thunder Run south, well, if they can get down here, they have gained so much. They have gained so incredibly much. The issue is, of course, if Russia tries to counterattack. But the question is, can Russia counterattack? Because the troops will be fighting elsewhere. They will be trying to hold the line. They will be depleted from weeks of combat. What will Russia have in store to prevent a Thunder Run? And even if it is, they manage to stop it. Maybe Ukraine only gets this far. That in itself is a victory, because that means this territory is now Ukrainian. And from here they can expand, right? So that's what I think they're going to do. They're going to do a Thunder Run for as long as possible until they can go no further, making sure they are not overreaching. Goddamn headset. Making sure they don't overreach, so they can hold on to the ground they've gained. And here we have Sakativka. Look at the terrain here. If Russia tries to move in and stop Ukraine, wide open fields, right? But unlike up at the front, where these fields are now mined, these are now wide open to maneuver in. You can move. So Russia has troops here, say, right, to stop the Ukrainian advance. Well, Ukraine can just move around at speed. This is terrain for maneuver warfare, and Russia is unable to fight maneuver warfare, right? They proved that last year. They suck at it. So here, Ukraine can actually start maneuvering, outflanking, and utilizing Western vehicles to maximum mobility. And Russia will not be able to stop Ukraine once maneuver warfare begins. So yeah, Sakativka, the main road that Ukraine wants, about 60 kilometers. Yeah, they just need to breach and then drive like hell. And if they can get down here and begin securing the territory they've gained, Russia will have to relocate and try and adjust and make new lines of defense. Fine, make new lines of defense. That only means Ukraine has gained all this terrain and can start expanding into terrain that Russia has abandoned. So that's why I think they will do the Thunder Run. Second part of the breach is Blitzkrieg, classic Blitzkrieg. So, yeah, bunch of arrows. It looks silly, but say they breach here, this stretch of road that is so important. Once they're through, they can start fanning out. This is the Thunder Run, and then they start fanning out behind the enemy line, while at the same time attacking from the north, from on the front line. And this should create a bunch of encirclements. So Ukraine secures the breach in the Russian line. They swing around behind the Russian troops and link up with other Ukrainian troops attacking from the north. This creates a pocket, an encirclement. And now Ukraine can begin to grind down the Russians trapped in this encirclement, because the Russians are cut off from reinforcements, they are cut off from resupplies. They can only fight for so long. So the Thunder Run and the Blitzkrieg combined is what I think Ukraine is after. I think they are trying to create a Thunder-Blitz. Basically, punch a hole, Thunder Run as far south as possible without losing control, without overreaching, so they can secure the territory they've taken. And at the same time as they do the Thunder Run, fan out and start attacking the enemy from behind while pushing from the front, which should create pockets of encircled Russian troops. And these pockets can then be systematically ground down until they are either destroyed or they have surrendered. And say that this pocket here surrenders. Then the breach is not this wide. Then the breach is from here all the way over here. And if this pocket here surrenders, then the breach is from here all the way over here. And this is Blitzkrieg. Get through, get behind, and circle. Create pockets that you can then systematically destroy. So isolate troops and destroy them. This is Blitzkrieg right here. And this is the Thunder Run. Going deep into enemy territory, securing vital locations. So I think Ukraine is trying to do a Thunder Blitz. Do I have any evidence for it? No, it's a hunch. Because looking at the map, I think this road is so important for them. And if they want to prevent Russia from just setting up new defensive lines, they need to strike deep, which means they need a Thunder Run. And if they want to break up the Russian defenses, unless Russia retreats, then they need to surround the Russians and encircle them in classic Blitzkrieg fashion. So that's all I have for you at the moment. Jesus Christ, this turned out to be a long video. Not sure if you watched it from beginning to end. If you did, thank you. And I hope it was interesting. And yeah, unscripted, so a bit unscripted, in other words. And sorry for the headset shutting down all the time. But yeah, that's it. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.